where's my drink? It's always within reach. Okay, I'm super excited because for once in my dang life, I actually get to be in a room with another human and participate with other humans in doing what I do. So I'm super excited to talk to my friend Kyle because I know that I've said a lot of opinionated things about Spanko, non-Spanko relationships and how people can make it work and whether they can make it work. I know that I have my own baggage and I have my own opinions about this, but I'm excited to talk to Kyle and I think you guys are going to really enjoy watching this video. Also, I think it's going to make a lot of people really happy because Kyle is a non-Spanko who is engaged to a Spanko friend of mine named Suze, and they have truly one of the most successful and beautiful relationships that I have ever seen. And before we start talking about how they've made it work, I want to share a memory that I have of the two of them. We had a party in Washington, D.C. a couple months ago, and my daddy, Dan, strapped Suze in the middle of the Airbnb living room for like an hour. It was memorable. And we were all sitting there watching this amazing scene, watching Suze take this strapping for like an hour. And Kyle was there watching his fiance take this like brutal beating from another man. And at the end of the scene, it was actually quite romantic. Like I felt quite emotional seeing this. He stood up and he yelled in front of the whole room, "I'm gonna marry that girl!" And he's going to marry that girl. But I'm excited to talk to Kyle about how they made this work because I know I get a lot of messages from people about whether they can make Spanko, non-Spanko relationships work, about tensions or stress or anxiety they feel. And I feel like if anyone can answer these questions, it's Kyle because he's making it work. So, hello, Kyle.
Hi, Jillian.
Welcome to my living room and YouTube channel.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
I think it's important for all of y'all to know that Kyle and I started drinking about 4 hours ago, and we haven't stopped. So yeah, here we go.
Got it.
Ooh. Sometimes it's better to do these things drunk. I have a list of questions, as you know, but I really just want to have a conversation with you, like as a friend.
Yeah.
Because as you know, I have had the experience of being in a very long-term relationship with a non-Spanko. I was married to him, and it didn't work out in our case.
Yep.
But in your case, it very obviously is working out. And I'm super to learn a lot more from both of you about how you're making this work. So start me out by telling me your story. Like, how did you first find out that Suze was obsessed with spanking? Absolutely.
So the way it really started is, honestly, we met on one of the many apps that are out there.
Yeah.
And from that point, you know, her initial statement was, "I love cocktails." I'm like, "That's great. I'm a little kinky." I'm like, "That sounds fantastic." And then it kind of started to evolve into, "I'm kinky. Okay. I love rough sex." I'm like, okay. Well, you know, it'd be really great if you spanked me, you know, before sex. I'm like, "That I can do that.
Sounds
sure.
good."
Sure. Yeah. "Can you spank me a little bit more before sex?" "Sure, not a problem."
Yeah.
"Can you just spank me tonight and maybe we'll not have sex tonight?" "Okay, sure." And then it just kind of continued to evolve from there. And really where it ended up was this was something for her. And I've kind of constantly always had sex in my life. So I wanted to kind of continue to delve deeper into that idea.
Was there an aha moment for you when you were like, "Oh, Suze is like into spanking in a way that's different than the way that a lot of people are into spanking"?
So it's honestly when she started kind of bringing me your literature.
Oh.
Yeah. Weird, huh? But no, she had honestly just finished reading your book. And she brought it to me and said, "Hey, I've read through this. And by the way, I annotated it." I said, "Okay." She said, "I'd really like you to read this book." I said, "Okay." I'm not a big reader. So it caught me off guard. So I read through and really it opened my eyes to honestly a whole new world. I had heard about, I had understood that kink, BDSM, spanking, impact, blah, blah, blah. Those are all things. But I hadn't really understood that this was something that someone could actually identify with, and it could be such an important part of someone's life. And when she brought it to me, the way that she did, it very much conveyed to me how important this was to her. And so because I love and respect her, I tried to give that gesture the respect that it required. And so I read through. I actually annotated as I could through it as well. And then we kind of went through it together. And I don't know, it opened my eyes to a lot of things.
Kyle, you're dangerously close to making me feel okay about my work.
I mean, oops.
Okay, so something that definitely interests me is I know that you both play with other people. I just told the story about Sue's playing with my daddy. I've seen you play with many, like, I mean, we have parties. I've seen you both play with all kinds of people. Was there a transition there from spanking being something that was part of your relationship to spanking being something that was part of your lives and your friendships with other people? Was that a transition for you?
There was. So honestly, I guess for me, I realized that she needed more than I could necessarily give. Me being non-Spanko, me being kind of all these other buzzwords through and through, I couldn't provide for her what she necessarily needed and required. However, there's a community out there that can. And if I love and respect her enough, I don't know, I guess I can wrap my head around her getting this, especially initially. I was there. I was watching. I was like, This is awesome. This is safe. This is fun. So I am sex oriented. It's who I am. It's who I identify as and everything from that point. Yeah. And I realized through a lot of more in-depth conversations with her that at the end of the day, like, I've never not been able to be publicly sex oriented. Whether I was young, whether I was old, whether it was anything in between, if I said, I'm attracted to so-and-so, wow, I would love to be intimate with so-and-so, no one would bat an eyelash at me.
Right, I get it. Like you could be like, I want to be intimate with someone in a sex-oriented way, and everyone was like, that's a normal thing to want. Yep. But if Suze was ever like, I want someone to take me over his knee and spank my bottom because I was bad,
to grab me.
Yeah, they'd be like,
exactly.
Okay, got it.
There's a little bit more of the little bit of the hiding behind the hands and whatever it might be. And when I really started kind of breaking that down, there was definitely an aha moment of, I've never been, even when I felt like, if I could only just make out with that person, if I could only just, eventually get with that person, I was never repressed at that moment. Like, it was never a thing that I had to hide from the world. It was never something that anyone would judge me for. Right. And that stinks. That's horrible. And so I started looking at it and going, well, I don't know how to say it. I mean, she's had to do that. Yeah. And so I started looking at it and going, okay, well, what can I do for her? If I love her the way that I at least say that I do, if I want to support her in the way that I at least say that I do, let me start, acting out what I'm saying I want to do.
I feel like what I hear you saying is that you and Suze make it work because you love her.
Yeah, I do, fiercely. To quote me, I'm gonna marry that girl. Yeah. But I think the respect for everything that she has either gone through or honestly repressed up until this moment is part of that love as well. Yeah. And I've been able to be myself for all the years that I've been on this earth. She's been able to be mostly herself for the years that she's been. And that's, who wants that for someone they love? Who wants that for someone that they're going to marry? You want them to be 100% themselves, period.
But I'm sure there are people out there who have actual impediments to their desire to express their love for their partner. Have you had moments where you were like, this is something I struggle to do. This is a challenge for me. Has something been like a hurdle you had to overcome?
Absolutely. So I guess honestly, first and foremost, she found your Discord, which, yay.
Yay.
Great for me. I don't have to entertain a lot of those things because she found an amazing spanker community.
Oh, you don't have to talk to her about spanking all day because we will talk to her about spanking all day.
Absolutely. And she comes to me sometimes. She's like, I really need a spanking. And I happily oblige at this point because I haven't had to interact with it for the last several hours, we'll say.
But we've been talking to her about it for 14 hours at that point.
Exactly.
So you're ready to like take the ball into the end zone.
Exactly. It makes me seem like a superstar, and that's awesome.
That's cool.
But it also makes our relationship work out incredibly as well. Because I can kind of, from again, the non-Spanko standpoint, I don't have to carry the ball, the first 80 yards.
That makes sense.
And that's great.
But we adore you, right?
I mean, I appreciate that.
To put this in context, Kyle has come to like a lot of our parties and is the best.
I do what I can. I do what I can.
That makes me want to ask you, why do you consider yourself a non-Spanko? Because honestly, I've told you this before. When Daddy and I are talking about you behind your back, we forget that you're a non-Spanko, like until we remember. I think if some person came to one of our parties, some like new person came to one of our parties and you were there, that person would just assume you're a Spanko like the rest of us because you play, you are like amazing. Like you're in practice, you're a Spanko in every way, but you say you're not a Spanko.
Correct.
Why do you say that?
Yeah. And first of all, I'll take the compliment.
Yeah. I mean it as a compliment.
Yeah. And absolutely. No, I'll take the compliment. It's for me at the end of the day, when I close my eyes, when I wake up in the morning, when I do anything and everything in between, spanking's not on my mind.
Oh, right, you're not obsessed with it.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
You're obsessed with your fiance.
She's kind of my anything and everything at this point. Like she is truly amazing. But no, like I don't dream about it. I don't fantasize about it. It's not the things that make my world go round.
Yeah.
After spending the last several years with her, I understand that it is what helps make her world go round.
Yeah.
And after interacting with yourself, with Dan, with so many other people within the community, I understand that it is their everythings. It's where their fantasies lie. It's where their lives lie. It's where their thoughts reside. It's where everything is. And that is exactly what it sounds like. And that's okay. And that's awesome. And accepting that is exactly what it is. I hear Daisy eating behind me, and it's awesome and distracting.
Perfect.
She is perfect. You get it, girl.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question, and I want you to answer this question for me as if we're not currently in a room with 9 Spankos watching us. Have you ever been squicked out by anything about our world? Like, this feels weird to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
Tell me. I mean,
have you ever been squicked out about your world?
Yes, I've been squicked out by myself and by our world. So it's not like it's not bad that you've been. Tell us.
No, fair. So there's a few different things, but the one that is honestly the most that just what's your word? Squicks me up most. Is honestly it's the inability to drop the topic. It's this is the only thing I can think about and talk about at this point. And I'm like, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, what about sex? Well, what about this? Well, what about laundry? Well, what about anything and everything else? And it took, we've been through fights about it. It wasn't always the easiest path. But where I kind of had to keep coming back to is this is all, though it's lifelong, though it's something she's dealt with her whole life, her being able to express this finally is new. Her being able to actually talk about it with people that understand is even newer.
Yeah.
And
there's kind of like an explosion moment.
Of course she's going to be excited about it.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know, probably a bad comparison, but the first time I wanted, as soon as I got my driver's permit, I wanted to drive all the time. Now all I want to do is sit in the back of an Uber.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like when you first finally get that acceptance, that understanding, that permission to do something that you were not allowed to do once upon a time, you're going to be excited about it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And it's honestly my job as being a supportive partner. You know, is she safe? Yes. Is she doing things consensually? Yes. Where's my issue?
Did you struggle with seeing with Suze play with other people? Did you struggle with playing with other people? Because we have gone to enough parties together that I know that you play with other people even when Suze is not in the room.
So I feel like this is always a difficult thought and question, because I feel like so many people are like, well, no, it's easy for me to play with someone else. It's easy for me to do something else. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing it. I know where my mind is at. That's easy.
But you must realize that a lot of people would be like, how can you be fine with that?
I was not here once upon a time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, tell me about that.
No question about it. No question
tell me
about
about
it.
that.
No, now, Dan, high five to you. That was an impressive strapping.
Dan's behind the camera right now.
That's right. Oh, there it is.
I think that for a lot of people who are Spankos in relationships with non-Spankos, which is an experience I've had, find the idea of playing with other people very intimidating. So, like, what was the process of being comfortable with Suze playing with other people, and you play with other people even when Suze is not in the room? Like, what was that process like for you guys?
Yeah. May I actually ask back at you real quick?
Yeah.
Why
I'm drunk.
are you... No, it's good.
Yeah, you're drunk too.
You're a Spanko.
Yeah.
And you're with the Spanko.
Yeah.
Why do you play with someone else?
I don't know. This is fascinating. This is super fascinating because
I think this plays a lot into what my response will be.
It makes sense because I love my daddy, but also, and I love playing with him. And I don't think there is a person in the world who is more suited to my specific fetish than my daddy. I think we're like, we basically have the same fetish in every way.
Every nuance.
Except the Qui-Gon thing. But except the male thing, we're like right on the same level. But we both like to play with other people.
Sure.
And like we both feel fine about that. We think that's fine. Like, but I think that's just because we like our friends, and doing what we love with our friends is awesome. Like, spanking is not only the way I feel sexually intimate with people, it is the way I feel platonically intimate with people.
So you're saying for you it can also be intimate without necessarily being sensual.
Friend, come here, friend. Friend with a Green Bay Packers hoodie. Daddy's gonna love that. Yeah. So, let's talk, friend. What do you think? What message are we sending?
I think it's more about why. Sorry, I've been on the drink a lot tonight too, and it's a bit of a. There's a lot of laughter happening from our studio audience tonight, but I suppose it's more about whether or not people with specific kinks can slot into the kinks of their partners versus whether or not vanilla people, even if they do legitimately love each other, can be in a relationship with Spankos. And I'm pessimistic about that, to be honest with you.
You're pessimistic about what?
I'm pessimistic that vanilla people can be with Spankos and without a lot of either opening the relationship up or soul searching can make it work, because the analogy that I like to use is about default settings, right? Like, if you have a computer, you buy it, you cannot mess with your default settings until that thing is out of date and you replace it 5 years later. But if you start messing with one thing, all of a sudden you start thinking to yourself, wait, is the rest of this working optimally for me? And you start messing around with other bits. And we live in a culture that is very default, heterosexual, cisgender, monogamous. And as soon as you start messing with any one of those default settings, you start questioning whether or not everything else works for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I, for most of my life, was living under those default settings. And after accepting that being entirely sex-oriented didn't work for me and being kink-oriented worked better, I started to think about whether or not, I mean, I've done male since and I enjoyed it. And, I never would have thought that for myself a couple of years ago. And I'm killing it over here with this one. I swear to God. This needed take this material on the road.
Cheers.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Can someone hand me my drink? Can a member of the studio audience hand me my drink, please?
He needs his drink.
As long as you are understanding, accepting, and supporting of that person, and again, blatant honesty, understanding everything, where they're coming from, communicating every last bit of it, no secrets whatsoever. I do feel as though just because they are not necessarily interacting does not necessarily disqualify them from being able to support their partner in being part of a Spanko community, in playing with others. And I don't think that will necessarily break a relationship because of it.
And I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I suppose what I'm saying is it's a rare person who sees their partner getting something that they cannot provide and doesn't in some way want to be a participant. And, I'm colored from my own experiences as well in this.
Wait, what's your experience, Gerald McSpanko? What is your experience?
That's my real name. Look it up. Find me on Facebook. I don't know. My experience is I was with someone who was, I would say, had kinky interests, but certainly wasn't as kinky as a lot of you or me or members of our studio audience were.
Or everyone in our apartment right now.
And
my
likely you,
apartment.
if you're watching this right now, probably you too. She was probably less kinky than you were, but
my apartment is just full of Spankos right now. We're like filming this with like so many Spankos in the living room. They're just like all here watching. So
and
take that as you will.
I like your glasses.
I like yours.
Same glasses.
Mm-hmm.
What are your glasses, Jillian?
She's not even kidding.
Didn't you get the memo?
Thank you.
Oh.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to my failures. At a certain point, I discovered that I had a need that she couldn't fulfill. And that was essentially what ended it. And it was hard because we were very much partners, and we still are close, and I think of her very highly, and she's still one of my favorite people, but we realized we couldn't make it work because there was a thing that I needed that she couldn't provide, and that was hard for her. No one likes to be in a partnership where their partner comes to them and says, hey, I have a thing that I require to feel complete and myself and confident and loved and fulfilled, and you cannot do it.
I need something that you cannot provide.
Exactly. And especially for vanillas, because explaining this to them is so difficult. You've said this a number of times, the amount of people that we've gone to and explained what we're into, and they say, oh, everyone's into spanking, and you're like, well, not the way we do it, honey. And to say that to someone that you love, and to have them say, well, I can do that, and to come back and be like, actually, you kinda it can be more than most relationships can bear, I think, unless you are an extremely open-minded person who is willing to fully step into that role, I think.
So I think it's worth allowing ourselves to challenge that partner, though, before we write them off.
Because you were challenged.
Absolutely.
And you stepped to the plate. But I know there are people on the internet who are like, I also want to pull this off. So how do they do that?
I honestly and truly think it comes back to a level of open, full communication. Try to talk to, try to understand, and don't go into it trying to convince them that they're not a Spanko. Don't allow them to try to convince you that you are. Try to understand both persons' perspectives and see where a middle ground might lay. And honestly, for us, I mean, it worked out incredibly well. It worked out that I love every last bit of her. And I can't imagine being without every last bit of her, Spanko included.
So if you had to give one piece of advice to Spankos who are in relationships with non-Spankos, what advice would you give them?
Honestly, just to believe them. It sounds ridiculous, but this isn't something you're necessarily gonna, or correction, that the partner is necessarily going to grow out of. It's not a phase. It's not a phase. It's not a this. It's not a that. Like, it's the same way that I have my entire life been able to be a sexual individual that identifies with sex. They have, for that same entire time period,
felt that way about spanking.
Absolutely. But up until this point, they have not necessarily been able to push that part forward. They haven't been able to present that part to the world. And that's, that might be the reality, but that doesn't have to be the future. And really, at the end of the day, vanilla, kinky, pure Spanko, whatever it might be, understanding and support is, I think, honestly and truly the way forward.
And I think that you and I might be saying the same thing a bit, because it's when you said believe them, I think there's another part of that is believe that you as a non-Spanko can provide everything that they require. Believe that this is different, that what we think of when we think of a spanking is different than what you see in, I don't know, whatever that show is on Showtime or 50 Shades or whatever. Believe that it's different and that you can tap into the headspace 100%. But if you're willing to go along with it and to believe that there are parts of this that you can't tap into, maybe then you can see that there are parts of it that you can in time that maybe do resonate with you, even if you're not part of the entire package. I don't think that you ever would have thought about sending your fiance to the corner before this emerged, but I've seen it happen and it worked, and it seems to work for both of you.
Now I know she deserves it.
Exactly. Cheers to that. But
she deserves it. I agree. She's very bad.
You.
I honestly, at this point, love it when she plays with other people. I know she gets something out of it that I'm sure I don't even understand when I play with other people. And I don't know, we have a better relationship because of it.
She's the best.
She is. I'm gonna marry that girl.
You're gonna marry that girl. I'm super drunk. So it's unclear to me how to finish this YouTube video. I think the conclusion of tonight is that we love everybody. We love Spankos, and we also love Kyle.